The, this is the 10th edition of India Economic Conclave. Now we always want to look forward, but for the audience here, I will take the clock back. 10 years ago, Indian stock markets were at 25,000. Our forex reserves were less than $300 billion. Our total size of the economy was less than $2 trillion. We were running a very high fiscal deficit. Rupee was under intense pressure and FDI had been broken. So the India of today is very different from India of 10 years ago. But where do you think we are headed 10 years from now? Hypothetically, if we are on the same forum, engaging and talking at the 20th edition of the India Economic Forum, what do you think we are likely to be discussing?
So you went back 10 years. So to answer your question, I'll take you 20 years back.
20 years.
So let's look at what has happened in the last 20 years. Right? I mean, as economists, we also like to look at the long-term growth rates, how we have performed. So if you really look at India's growth rate, first, let's say in current dollars, over the last 20 years, ending in 23, 24, starting in 2003-4, that's a 20-year period, we have grown in current dollars over a little over 10%, current dollars. Now you can use the US rate of US GDP deflator, which is little over 2%, 2.1, 2.2%. That gives you, even in real terms, real dollars, growth rate of about 7.9%, maybe close to 8%. So let's for a moment think about it. During this 20-year period, we had the global financial crisis, we had the COVID crisis, two major crises, and we still managed to grow 10%, a little over 10% in current dollars. For a moment, suppose we do just that much. If the next decade remains more normal and abnormalities that come in are not of the magnitudes that we have had before in the last 20 years. Also, by the way, in the last 20 years, we had our own banking problem. The NPAs, which led to in the financial markets troubles also, and that had led to the growth rate decline in 2019-20 as well. So in spite of all these three major shocks to the economy, we did that. So I think it's a reasonable assumption to make that at least that much we will do in the next 10%, meaning this in the next 10 years. That gets you in 10 to 11 years to 10 trillion. In fact, even if you actually want to assume that we'll grow only 8% in current dollars, that gets you to over 7 trillion. So I think prospects look incredibly good. But even, let's be conservative for a moment and say 7 trillion. That will be a couple of $1 trillion more than the next country. I mean, obviously we'll be the third largest by that, well before that, but then we would be a couple of $1 trillion ahead of our next competitor. So that, I think, undisputedly turns India into a truly, truly major player in the global economy. In the end, those are the three economies that the world will be looking at, as it is looking already, given our growth potential and where the country is headed. So I think it's, in 10 years' time, things are going to change dramatically.